Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, Secretary of State Adrian Fontes joins us to discuss the FBI subpoena of the 2020 Maricopa County election audit. Also tonight, the newly passed SAVE Act could make it harder for people with disabilities to vote. And the mayor of Chandler on how the League of Arizona Cities and Towns views the current legislative session. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Steve Goldstein in for Ted Simons. On Monday, State Senate President Warren Peterson said he complied with an FBI subpoena to provide records from a Senate-ordered audit of Maricopa County election results from 2020. The State Senate ordered the audit after President Trump made unfounded claims of fraud in the presidential election. The audit itself was later debunked, but the handover of records comes as Trump continues to pressure states to find what he claims is election fraud. Joining us now is Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, who at the time of the election was the Maricopa County Recorder. Welcome back to Arizona Horizon. Thanks for
having me.
When did you learn that Senate President Peterson had turned over these records to the FBI, and what was your first reaction? Now, you might have to, it's a family show, but.
Yeah, well, I first learned of it probably 20 minutes after he tweeted it. Somebody let me know. We were not, of course, told because it's, an FBI, a grand jury. They would have had no reason to tell us. But I'm actually surprised that he tweeted it out because it's an active investigation. But the bottom line is we were a little bit taken by surprise because the rumor mill was saying that it was Maricopa County. And so on the one hand, we're glad they cleared it up. But on the other hand, I think this could be problematic in our other case as well.
Okay. As you mentioned, he did tweet. We're going to put that up on the screen and let our viewers see it. I think what's interesting is that we actually gave him the opportunity to come on the program. A spokesperson said he said all he wanted to say in the tweet. He says the FBI has the records. President Trump was 100% correct. How frustrating is it that these things that have been debunked continue to pop up? And some people would cynically call it a distraction, this is not really that people are looking for evidence. This is more of a political distraction. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, 2020 is over. It's been litigated over and over again. We know that former Attorney General, may he rest, Mark Brnovich, did a very thorough report and investigation that was released by Attorney General Mays. We know that 2020 was fine. There wasn't anything wrong with it. In fact, I was on the same ballot with Donald Trump. I lost my reelection. I didn't complain about it, though. The problem that I see here is the tie-in with the previous litigation where the Department of Justice is trying to take Arizonans' personal identifying information from the voter rolls. And what I see is this could be an end around to get past Judge Brnovich, which ironically is Attorney General Brnovich's widow, to get around the current litigation, which the Department of Justice has been losing in state after state after state. So if that's what happened here, then the Department of Justice has been playing fast and loose with their prosecutorial power, and we're exploring all of our legal options right now. But this could be a very, very dangerous use of the Department of Justice's ability to impanel grand juries and issue subpoenas from those grand juries.
Let's boil it down a little bit smaller. We're on the micro level with Arizona. When we put it, you've talked about how you feel like your department has been underfunded, and there are certain simple things that could be done with just a little bit extra. When you see the Senate president doing this kind of thing, do you wish he would just sort of focus on things that would make the election safer as opposed to things that might sow more doubt?
Well, absolutely. That's why we have tried to introduce the Arizona Voters First Act so that we can preserve ballot by mail, which is under attack, not only by the White House, but their allies in the state legislature, to make sure that we have money for the counties to actually maintain the voter rolls and for information technology security and several other things. We want to stop worrying about the grievances of the past and relitigating something that is already settled, and that is 2020. The problem is we're using tons and tons of taxpayer dollars through the FBI. Now we've seen today HSI has an investigation for one person's political loss instead of worrying about all of Arizona's voters, the security of their data, which I'm trying to protect, and the ease of access for their voting, all of which is really important for Arizona's voters So says the Center for the Future of Arizona that did a really, really thorough survey on these things. We know what Arizona voters want, and they don't want this nonsense that they're seeing out of Washington, D.C. and out of the Senate president.
So the fact that you and some other secretaries of state across the country have stood up and said you're not going to share this information, to some degree, is that enough? Will that show us whether the effort from the administration is really serious, that if you say to them, hey, listen, we're not going to play ball, they'll back off, or is this going to be a lot more litigation involved here?
Well, we've told them that we're not going to play ball, as you will, and that's why the Department of Justice is suing us. So they're continuing to utilize taxpayer dollars in a losing effort to violate the Privacy Act of 1974, to violate Arizona statutes that require keeping this personal identifying information in confidence. And so not just here in Arizona, but across the country. And it's not just Democrats, by the way. There are Republican secretaries of state and folks with those duties, West Virginia, Utah, Lieutenant Governor, a personal friend of mine, Deidre up there, who has the secretary duties. She's saying, no, the Department of Justice has sued her. So these are elections officials and chief election officers across the country who are telling the Department of Justice no. And again, I am afraid that this new FBI investigation is an end around to try to get past the district court who's litigating this very same issue. But I want to be real clear about this too. We're not 100% sure yet that the information turned over by the Senate president includes that personal identifying information. If it does, then they've surrendered information that is subject to this other litigation, and those kinds of shenanigans are not the way you should use our criminal justice system for political ends.
Now, early on, you were talking about, and some people were saying this is political rhetoric, others were saying thank you for raising the flag, as it were, that this is a way that President Trump and the administration would like to have the feds, in essence, take over elections. We've seen that in Congress so far. The House has gone along with it so far. The Senate probably doesn't have 60 votes. We don't know at this point. How serious a threat do you think that is to the feds taking over elections?
Well, it's a very serious threat to at least 22 million Americans that certain studies by the Brennan Center, et cetera, have shown would be disenfranchised. It's a serious threat. And here's the thing for Arizona voters, I think people should understand. What it means is you can no longer vote by mail, period. So if you like voting at your kitchen table or on your couch, or you can have the time to look at what you want to look at, research the candidates and figure things out, which is how most of Arizonans vote, they're taking that away from you, the Arizona voter who's used to voting by mail. And I think that's crazy because that's one of the choices that Arizona voters really love. So if you're okay with losing your right to vote by mail in a secure way, the way Arizonans like to vote, then go ahead and support this thing. But I don't. I think Arizonans deserve every opportunity they can under the ways that we've been doing it for years, which are secure and accountable, to put their voice out there and be heard in a fair way. This is just shenanigans to distract from all kinds of other things. We should be talking about affordability. We should be talking about making more peace and less war. I think it's also a distraction from a lot of other very uncomfortable things for the White House. You know, so like, can we just get back to doing the things that we need to do and let people sleep in peace for once?
Well, now you sound like you're running for governor, which I know you're not. You're running for Secretary of State again.
I am running for Secretary of
Anyway,
State.
good to see you again, Secretary Fontes. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
The Mustang is the most American animal. He was the king of the plains.
So there's just all these incredible stories behind why Mustangs have touched people's lives.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on Arizona PBS.
What everybody wants to know is whether or not Mars once had life.
And if it still survives today.
Finding the organic matter is the clue.
The planets, Mars, on Nova. Tonight at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
For decades, the Bee Gees created music that defined a generation. Witness their complete story from the brothers give themselves. Watch Bee Gees in Our Own Time here on PBS.
Sunday at 11 on Arizona PBS.
The House of Representatives passed the SAVE Act, and part of that act would make it harder for people with disabilities to vote. If passed into law, the act would require people to register to vote in person, and this is something that could be a challenge or impossible for people with disabilities. For more on the act's potential impact, John Myers is with us. John's the Executive Director of the Arizona Developmental Disabilities Planning Council. John, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So much of the focus of the Save America Act has generally been on the federal government looking to take over local elections. But this could have a disproportionate effect on voters with disabilities. I want to ask about your biggest concerns. I'm sure they're fairly obvious, but go down the list for us.
Well, the disability community is already at a disadvantage when it comes to elections and voting opportunities. We absolutely do not want to see them further disadvantaged. People with disabilities often have issues around transportation. They often have issues around having access to the kinds of identification that the Save America Act would require, and the list goes on and on. So this act, by eliminating vote by mail, by placing unfunded mandates on states to administer massively large bureaucratic structures to enact the legislation, it's simply going to make things harder. It's going to throw up additional barriers for people with disabilities beyond what they already face, and it is literally going to disenfranchise tens of thousands of Arizonans and millions, as the Secretary said, millions of Americans.
Do you think that was thought about or talked about enough when some of the things we're discussing? Because it really literally would disenfranchise thousands of voters. Do you wish it were getting a little bit more attention?
Absolutely wish it was getting more attention. And we have tried, the disability community has reached out to elected officials, members of Congress throughout this process to try and educate them on the needs of individuals with disabilities, the impact on voters with disabilities. It feels as though these arguments have fallen on deaf ears among those who support the legislation. We hope that they will take a moment and reconsider. We have to bear in mind that the bill has passed the House, but it is stalled in the Senate. And I think that means we have an opportunity, if this legislation is even going to pass at all, it has to pass with significant changes that take into account the impact it's going to have on people with disabilities.
John, do you know how many voters or what the percentage of voters in Arizona with disabilities vote by mail?
I don't know the exact number, but I would say it is the overwhelming majority. Just as it's a massive number of Arizonans in general who vote by mail. It is extremely popular in this state for obvious reasons. And I would say it's especially valuable to people with disabilities for reasons, again, having to do with geography and access to polling places, but also because of the climate in Arizona. Forcing people to go to a polling place is burdensome in and of itself. It is the way we worked throughout history in our country, but it's a problem we've overcome. But forcing people with disabilities to go to a polling place puts their health and well-being in danger because it is still very hot when we have our primaries, when we have our general elections in Arizona. And so for reasons of practicality, we're making it difficult on them with this kind of legislation. But for reasons of health and well-being, we are also making it very dangerous for them.
Well, also we focus so much on Maricopa County, but a lot of Arizona is rural as well, and rural voters will find it even more difficult to vote in person.
There's no question about that. And literally throwing the cost of additional polling places onto the states makes it untenable for states. There's no chance that a state like Arizona could put a polling place in every location where somebody with a disability lives so that they could get to it. And moreover, most of them do not have access to the kind of transportation they would need if they live in a rural or isolated community in order to get to a polling place.
You mentioned talking to members of Congress about this, trying to get people to think about it a little bit more. Are there best practices out there? Are you trying to work with organizations across the country to see how you could coalesce?
We are definitely working with organizations across the country and here in Arizona. Now, the focus of the Arizona Developmental Disabilities Planning Council is, as you might imagine, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. But the network of partners we have around the state serve people with all types of disability. And we are working together to try and educate voters, to try and educate policymakers about the needs of this community and about why it's so important to take those needs into account. Over recent years, we've had great success. This state, I would venture to say that Arizona has worked as hard as anyone, perhaps harder than anyone, to ensure voters with disabilities are taken into account and they are accommodated when they cast their ballots. We can't go backward. This kind of legislation would simply be a step into the past.
John, thanks so much for being here. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
The League of Arizona Cities and Towns is an association representing 91 incorporated cities and towns in the state. The group actively watches the state legislature, especially policies and bills that could affect cities and towns. We welcome City of Chandler Mayor Kevin Hartke, who serves as president of the league. Thanks for being here, Mayor.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
So I want to start off with HB 4030, which has raised some hackles of those in cities and towns and counties as well, would potentially limit what municipalities could do as it relates to increasing revenue. So for some people, that's going to sound like, wait a second, why is the state legislature trying to limit what cities and towns could do? What's your reaction to that effort?
You know, I appreciate their efforts of wanting to respond to their constituents and provide tax relief, but what I often see is that the nuances between every city is astronomical. You have young cities that are coming in like Santan Valley to aging cities like Prescott, whose infrastructure is not falling apart, but just needs a lot of work. So it's always problematic to say that, well, cities are flush with money, they don't need to address this because we're all in different spots. We have lowered property tax rates 10 years in a row. We have the lowest water rate of any city in the valley. We're the only large city to pay off our PSPRS unfunded liability. So a lot of the presumptions are just not there.
I think one issue people are going to bring up is water in particular. We look at the Colorado River. We look at how cities and towns have to deal with potentially and perhaps likely at this point having to raise rates, updating technology. Let's talk specifically about water and how this could affect things if cities had to raise rates.
And many of them are. I mean, Queen Creek is looking at building a system tapping into the Harquahala aquifer, as is Buckeye. That's going to be a tremendous financial endeavor. And for the rest of us, between whatever cuts we take with the Colorado River, whether it's going to advanced purification, whether it's doing more work in our own systems, money is expensive. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sorry, water is expensive.
Yeah. What would you say to state lawmakers? What have you said to state lawmakers, if you can share that with us, about this, to say to them, again, what you've just said to us, cities and towns are different. You're going to handcuff us for 4 years potentially.
I would say, look, we appreciate your efforts, but we're on the same team. We're not fighting, and we have the same constituent. So we're close to the people. We understand our cities, our neighborhoods, and we're providing services that are just escalating in cost. And to handcuff us with this would have tremendous negative results.
And finally on this, do you think it's because any specter of any sort of revenue increase or tax increase has sort of been the ultimate boogeyman for the past couple of decades in politics? Do you think that's kind of an easy target to say that let's just lump all tax increases together?
I think so. And every city's financial base is entirely different. We try to diversify ours so that we're able to have these low costs, but we're different. Some have property tax, some don't, some tax food, some don't. So we're unique, and one size fits all doesn't fit Arizona cities.
Okay, so we started out with some adversarial stuff. I want to go to something that actually shows some cooperation. HB 4026 relates to public infrastructure. somehow as bipartisan support would support cities and businesses. If you can give us kind of a Cliff's Notes version, what's at the core of this bill and why do you like it?
I like it because there are large projects coming into Arizona. TSMC in Phoenix, Armcorp in Peoria, LG in Queen Creek, Intel in Chandler, that there is tremendous infrastructure costs of roads and water and other things that go in and out of those, that now this will allow cities to recoup up to 80%. So we've got skin in the game. But these large companies are force multipliers. So there will be lots of other companies coming into Arizona that will be suppliers of these that really impact and benefit the entire state. The $175 billion investment of TSMC will benefit us in huge ways. Taiwan is now our second largest trade partner. And so it's astronomical, and this allows the local municipality the ability to recoup some of the infrastructure that will go to setting these up.
And you mentioned obviously Intel and Chandler, which had a massive impact. Can you give us, are there some intricacies that are a little bit different with this legislation than what put that into effect to help Intel all those years ago?
So what has happened in the past is there has been kind of one-time amount set aside. What this will do is ask for up to $75 million every year. Again, and it's taxes only that go to that. So it's not going from elsewhere. So Phoenix will get recouped potentially for whatever amount will go to TSMC. The same with any city that has an investment urbanly up to $500 million, rurally I think $15 million.
And briefly, you could see this helping the state overall. This is not just pick and choose. This could really help many cities across the state.
Indeed, because again, there are supply chain companies in Eloy and Casa Grande and all around, and all across the valley that are there specifically because of these large semiconductor companies.
So very briefly, we're not taking a bet here, but do you think this is going to go the way the league wants it to? One will go down, one will go forward? How would you gauge it at this point?
Oh, wow, you're asking me to be a betting man, huh? You know, I hope that they all go forward in our case, but again, I understand. We all want to be watchdogs on tax dollars. We all want to be watchdogs on our constituents.
Okay. Mayor Hartke, thanks very much for being here.
Thank you, Steve.
That's all for this edition of Arizona Horizon. I'm Steve Goldstein in for Ted Simons. Thanks so much for watching.
Hello, I'm Alice Ferris, and we hope you enjoyed Arizona Horizon. For more than 40 years, viewers in Arizona have relied on Ted Simons and Arizona Horizon for in-depth coverage of issues of concern to our community. As you are probably